Good to see you. Good to be with you again today. Today's story is about spiritual fruits for a spiritual renaissance. And it starts with Philosopher Sophia, who asks a question of her evangelist friend, Evan. The question comes from the soul. She says, Evan, I feel a deep gnawing of uncertainty as I look at the world today. On the one hand, I know that there are so many good-hearted individuals, well-motivated people, idealistic groups that are working sometimes very effectively in their areas to make this world a better place. But at the same time, I see a lot of evidence that the power in the world is more with the selfishness and materialism that just makes it so hard for progress in some of the important ecological, social, economic, and political ways that are needed on this planet. And in order to get from here to there, to that great spiritual destiny of this world that is assured, we need a spiritual renaissance. But the near term is uncertain, the intermediate term is uncertain, and I don't know whether things are going to get a whole lot worse before the spiritual renaissance enables us to make a lot more progress, or whether we're going to be able to enjoy that spiritual renaissance, whether it's in our lifetime or the next generation or so, before things get a whole lot gulp worse than they are now. And Evan turned with a deep, deep pause in his soul and replied, Sophia, I live with the same uncertainty. I've got the same questions. And this is my take on it. In order for the spiritual renaissance to happen, we need two conditions. First of all, a critical mass. And I don't know what proportion of the population that means. Maybe way less than half, but it needs to include a larger part of the leadership group than I seem to observe today. We need a critical mass of people who become disillusioned by the pursuits of selfishness and materialism and come to hunger and thirst for truth and righteousness. And when that happens, then God will be able to launch things, especially if the second condition is fulfilled. And that second condition is that, you know, in my Christianity and in other people's religion, there needs to be, and people without any religion whatsoever, the spiritual but not religious types and so on, the nuns and all these different people that have a deep interest in God and a desire for communion with God and knowing God better. But anyway, there needs to be a critical mass on this side, not the same critical mass, but there needs to be a critical mass of people that can function as leaders, not institutional leaders, but leaders in terms of the spiritual fruit of their lives. Every religion has got lists of virtues or qualities that are wonderful qualities. And I'm thinking of a list of spiritual fruits. But we can hear these lists again and again and start to become dull to them. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-mastery. But unless we allow the Holy Spirit to enliven those truths, to breathe on them, to give them the power in our lives, and unless we respond to the faith that God has already given us and use that faith, then that amazing love won't be there. But there's something more I want to say about power too. And I was watching the news today and I saw a picture of two world leaders who I think are among the most dangerous people on the planet. I have learned to love these people. I have learned a compassionate attitude towards whatever factors in their background help explain the cause and effect story that partly explains who they are, who they have become. But this time, before I could be gripped by any uncertainty or get my love and compassion for these individuals going, from within, all of a sudden, instantly, upon seeing that photograph, there was a revelation of the power of God. God is all-powerful, and the all-powerfulness and all of its sublimity and grandeur and beauty was presented to me for a couple of seconds this morning. And I know that the power that political leaders have, or economic or other kinds of leaders have, organizational, institutional, what have you, leaders have, all power is of God. This world is not careening out of control. We will learn. It's just a matter of how much misery we're going to put ourselves through before we learn the lessons. And the good news is the truth is already there. We already know about the family of God and about the joy and liberty, the extraordinary quality of second miler service that starts to happen when people are really inspired with it and it starts to become alive. And when those fruits of the Spirit are there in a critical mass of leadership group, then, we've got the other condition needed. And I believe that disillusionment on one side and that spiritual growth on the other side are going to meet in some magnificent way, unrevealed to us, yes, uncertain. But that would be my answer. And at this point, Alicia, the artist, came into the conversation and showed the others a postcard. And she said, I think it was in Munich, in München, that I saw this picture in a museum and bought the postcard. It's by a 19th century romantic German painter named Karl Spitzweg. And Spitzweg painted this. It's titled the Schmetterlingsfänger, which means the butterfly catcher. And as part of the romantic movement of the culture of his time, he was drawing a radical contrast between a kind of straw man caricature of the narrowly minded scientist who wanders trying to catch butterflies with a net that's way too small for what he sees. He turns, his mouth is open, and he catches two magnificent, glorious blue birds taking wing. And I don't think you can see in the video his glasses, but they're not transparent. You can't see the eyes of Herr Professor Scientist. What you can see instead are the two lenses in opaque white, symbolizing his utter astonishment at what he sees. And I know that in real life, the outworkings of love and service are not so obviously dramatic, but their power is so real, and they are cooperating with God in the transformation of this world. And after hearing Evan and Alicia, Sophia spoke again from the soul and said, I've gotten the answer I needed. I understand about uncertainty now, and that there is a new spiritual fruit that's needed. We need to expand the list of spiritual fruits and not just give any one list in any one religion. Oh, this is the definitive list. For all the kinds of difficulties that we face, uncertainty, disappointment, apparent defeat, the sheer difficulty of what's to be done, the immensity of the task that an individual or a planet may face, the incomprehensibility of the contradiction between the truths of faith and the scientific realities of this world. Rather, we shall mobilize the cosmic attitudes in liaison with God. Nothing, absolutely nothing is impossible. And now with this attitude towards uncertainty, I pledge to do the work day by day, month by month, year by year, until these attitudes have become my automatic responses, my instinctive ways of responding. Once I recognize uncertainty, let it spring up like this. Of course, it may be as I prefer the outworking of things for the spiritual renaissance. But if things get a whole lot better, a whole lot worse instead, and if I don't see what I want to see in this generation, then I'm going to give every ounce of energy, every last breath to carrying that torch and passing the light on to the next generation, and using such gifts and accomplishments as God has given me for the wisdom combined with faith to make the best of the worst that we may face. With uncertainty, I know that feasting upon uncertainty, whichever way things go, I'm there. I'm going to be doing the best I can to help be part of the leadership group, however reduced my capacities may be. I will feast upon uncertainty and proclaim that among the spiritual fruits.